When you're flying a plane, you need to know what altitude you are flying, especially to avoid mountains, to avoid other aircraft flying in the same area. Now, when you're on the ground at the airport, your airplane really doesn't know what the altitude of the airport is. However, we've mentioned earlier there's such a thing as pressure height. Now, pressure height is not the same as actual altitude above ground level. Pressure height is the model of where the plane thinks it is flying based on the pressure of 1013 hectopascals. Now, in your airplane, there's an instrument called an altimeter. Now, if you there's a little dial on the side like your watch. Now, if you turn that little dial, there's a little screen that shows this value here. Now, if you were to dial in 1013, then the needle will be adjusted to whatever the pressure height of that plane is. Now, let's say when you put 1013 into the dial here, let's say the aircraft gives you the value 2000. Well, then that's the pressure height of the plane at that time. It is not the altitude of the airport. It will be the altitude of the airport if the pressure at the airport actually is, at that moment, the same as ISA, International Standard Atmosphere. So, let's fly high above the Earth, and let's just keep flying up, and let's fly up right up high to about 18,000 feet. Now, at 18,000 feet, what we're talking about is so that all planes know what height they're flying, the pressure on the ground will constantly change. However, if all the pilots have 1013 set to their altimeter, once they fly up a particular height, we'll call this a transition altitude, TA. So once you fly over a particular height, this transition altitude is where all pilots will adjust their altimeter to show 1013. Now, if all pilots have 1013, then they will all the airplanes flying at 18,000 feet will show 18,000 feet on the dial, and all planes at 20,000, this is a pressure height, this is not an altitude, at 20,000 feet will show, if they have 1013, they'll all show the same altitude. So a plane tells another plane, I'm at 18,000, there will be a 2,000 feet difference, and so that's pretty safe. So we call this flight, if we just look at, say, if we look at these four numbers, that's flight level 200, and this is flight level 180, and so flight level 180 means 18,000 feet pressure height. Right? We'll say pressure height. Why pressure height? Because we've got that ISA pressure set to the altimeter. We've got 1013 set on our altimeter dial, and that will give us the pressure height on our altimeter. So if we see 18,000 feet, alright, so we'll go 18,000 feet, that is flight level 180. At 22,000 feet, this is flight level, yeah? You can see what flight level that will be. At 22,000 feet, that's flight level 220. So whenever we hear about planes flying really high above the transition altitude, in different countries it's like, I believe it's 18,000 in, say, US and Canada, above 18,000 feet, all planes need to adjust their altimeter to set it to 1013, and then they know what their pressure heights are, and so they can all say quite confidently that they are at flight level 180 or flight level 200 or flight level 220. Remember, it's that pressure value that the instruments are all calibrated to show the pressure height based on this value. So all altimeters, if they're all calibrated correctly, they should all show the same height when set to the same numbers. So if they put 1013 into the altimeter, they should all be showing the correct pressure height at that above the Earth. And so that's high flying. So look forward to high flying, and until I speak to you again, stay happy.